Hey guys, Madison here, and today I am reacting to Chapter 19 of The Mandalorian, aka Season 3, Episode 3. Before I jump into this week's reaction, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone who posted such sweet messages on last week's episode, wishing me well and that I would get better soon and heal up, so thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I am doing much better than I was last week. It's going to be a long recovery. Doc said 6 weeks before full healing, full recovery, but I am doing much better, so thank you guys so much. No questions this week, but I did want to get to a couple of comments. The first one is from Jennifer Lee, who said, "The Jedi Order made exceptions for species that had very few members. Don't know if the Yoda species is in that category, but it's a possibility." And that is a very good point. I mentioned in last week's episode, did Yoda and Yaddle have a baby? That'd be kind of against the rules, possible, but I don't know if I really see it. But that is a good point, because Jedi like Ki-Adi-Mundi, he was literally tasked with the responsibility of rehabilitating his own race, his species there on his planet. So he probably fathered hundreds, if not thousands, of children. Exceptions have been made. That is a good point. The second comment is, again, not a question, but just a statement that I wholeheartedly agree with. Scorpio 1989 says, "We need the man bros riding into battle on their beasts, Din riding a mythosaur and Boba riding a rancor." Yes, Scorpio, I completely, wholeheartedly second this statement. Looking at you, Lucasfilm. Looking at you, Dave Filoni. Make it happen. Will we see Din riding a mythosaur this week? It remains to be seen, and I, for one, am very excited to find out. So, without further ado, guys, let's watch Chapter 19.
This is Dr. Pershing. His enthusiasm outweighs his discretion.
Dr. Pershing, so we are going to see Dr. Pershing in this episode. They have really got to stop spoiling me in the recap. If you're going to show me something, show it to me in the episode. Don't spoil it in the recap. Please. Maybe I should start skipping the recap. Contemplating the meaning of life.
I am redeemed.
I witnessed it. Did you see anything alive?
Alive? Like what?
Nothing.
She's not gonna tell him? Oh my gosh. She could have an ulterior motive in that. If you ride the mythosaur, you're Mandalore, so maybe she doesn't want Din to become even more Mandalore, because he's already got the Darksaber. And if he rides the mythosaur, he's really going to be legendary Mandalore, right? And so maybe she thinks, if I can ride the mythosaur, if I can tame the mythosaur, I can become Mandalore, even though I did not win the Darksaber. Playing the long game. Detect sarcasm, but... Whoa!
Something's coming up on us fast. It looks like a squadron of TIE interceptors.
Where'd they come from?
I've scubbed off a lot of Imperial warlords.
They tend to get mad when you hijack their ships.
Now you tell me. Are you still up for the transfer?
I don't see any other choice.
My favorite move, personally. Flying straight at him and then flying through the explosion.
Thanks for the backup.
2 more to go.
This is a fun scene.
One down.
Whoa. What a pivot.
I'm seeing something on the scope.
Are they blowing up her castle?
Those mudscuffers bombed my home.
There's too many of them. We've got to get out of here.
Good grief, they sent a whole battalion. A whole squadron, I mean. Whew. Exciting opening there. Whoa, this looks like Coruscant. Or Yeah, this is Coruscant. Holy crap. Holy crap.
There are many of us who had no choice in working for the Empire, but now the New Republic has given us a second chance. But despite the shameful work of my past, I now hope to help the New Republic in whatever way I can. I assure you that my original intentions were good. Thanks to the groundbreaking work of the Kaminoans, we know that cloning can duplicate an individual from a single genetic strand. Quite fast.
This feels like Operation Paperclip.
After everything you've been through, you're just so brave. You're such an inspiration.
They're all just sucking up because they want his research.
Thank you.
So wild seeing Coruscant again. Like full Coruscant, not just like the Jedi Temple or something.
Welcome to Amnesty Housing. It's paradise in comparison. This is G27, M40, G68.
Thanks to the rehabilitation program, I can contribute to the New Republic. Just like you.
Buildings and skyscrapers cover the entire planetary surface of Coruscant. Because of
Just seeing Imperials, ex-Imperials casually chatting it up.
city plan.
One moment. Travel biscuits.
I saw your talk last night. Really interesting stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had no idea you're so experienced.
So are we going to be following Dr. Pershing this whole episode? This is pretty wild. I did not see this coming. That's for sure.
You've been to Coruscant before?
A glowing popsicle.
I trained here at the academy.
We were close to making some incredible breakthroughs. In the right hands, our discoveries could have helped a lot of people.
The New Republic is trying their best, but they're struggling. There are lots of capable people who want to help. You want to touch it?
And then there's like an invisible electric fence around it. You're just like,
Please refrain from physical contact.
You knew that was going to happen, didn't you? If I were to pursue my own research, would that be allowed?
According to your file, your previous research involved cloning and genetic engineering. That class of research is expressly prohibited by the Coruscant Accords.
He's gonna go first order, calling it now. Down the road.
It's a silly idea, I know it is, but I really believe that.
You want to help the New Republic. They just can't see it yet.
If they found out, we'd both be sent back to the Reintegration Institute.
But if your research really is as important as you say, I'll take that risk.
I don't know if I believe the honesty of her intentions yet.
Our main objective is to help the Republic, right?
Correct.
And that supersedes everything else?
It does.
The mobile lab station? Let's go get it.
Good.
Music, it feels very Snoke and Palpatine.
You're helping the New Republic. It's the right thing to do. Have you done this before?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Biscuits.
Never done anything like this before. You sure we're alone?
Yep. Ships are all inoperable. No need to guard them. Now it is. Elia Kane, communications officer.
Dr. Penn Pershing, scientist.
Nice to meet you, Dr. Pershing.
I remember the first time I was in a place like this. I couldn't believe I'd made it. Raise your hands, L-52.
So she was working with them to get him in trouble?
Listen, I can explain. I wasn't trying...
No need. Amnesty Officer G68 has already submitted a report.
You're gonna wipe my mind.
Absolutely not. This isn't the Empire, son. This device is used to heal. I've been through the treatment myself, in fact.
I was right to be suspicious of her. I was right. Oh my gosh. She's cold, man. Cold as ice.
I'm bringing you to a Mandalorian covert. This is how we have survived in exile.
I want to see Bo-Katan in the armor have a conversation. That's going to be interesting.
We have been to the living waters.
They should have some sort of gadget to be able to like test it to where it says, yeah, this came from Mandalore.
He speaks the truth. Din Djarin, you are redeemed. This is the way.
This is the way.
By creed, you too are redeemed.
But I do not walk the way.
Have you removed your helmet since?
No, I have not.
Then you may join our covert. Welcome, Bo-Katan of Clan Kryze. This is the way.
This is the way.
Is she actually gonna go along with this? Wow, this is an interesting twist. I think I might have been right in my early prediction early on in this episode when I said maybe Bo-Katan is playing the long game. She was really bitter towards Din about him winning the Darksaber and her Mandalorian followers abandoning her. But now she's been welcomed into this covert. And, you know, she's looking at that mythosaur at the end, and I think she's like, if I play by the rules, you know, play by the rules of this covert for a little while, I can work my way up the ranks, maybe win some loyalty, and then tame the mythosaur, ride the mythosaur, and maybe challenge Din for the Darksaber again. And she's playing the long game of maybe I can still beat Mandalore. Because if there's one thing I know about Bo-Katan is that she's smart, she's clever, she's ambitious. She's very ambitious, and so I foresee a kind of power play from her in the future. I see it coming, and I think it's going to become more and more complex because I think she likes Din a lot, and there's good chemistry between those two, and I think that it will get harder and harder for her to betray him and make a power play, but I think she'll try, and I think Din might feel betrayed when that happens, depending on how it happens. I don't know. I have no idea how all this is going to play out. There's a lot of pieces on the chessboard. Anyone who's been watching my videos for a while knows that I am a shipper. I see potential and I ship. And I'm like, Din and Bo could be a great power couple, right? Am I right? But I don't know if they're going to go that direction. I know there's a bit of an age gap there, but I mean, Anakin and Padme. I don't know. I feel like that could be, again, the third way. Instead of, like, Din becoming Mandalore or Bo-Katan becoming Mandalore. What if they just... I mean, how about they just get married and rule jointly? I mean, why not? And then we kind of have Boba Fett off to the side, ruling on Tatooine. And it's like, is he ever going to be brought into this? I think he should be. I think it's a way more interesting and true to character arc for him. Plot arc for him than just being a gangster on Tatooine forever. I know he's not really a gangster because of his honor principles and all of that, but at his core, he is Mandalorian. He's very honor bound, I think he could be and needs to be part of this story. I don't know when they're going to bring him in, if it's going to be in this season or future seasons, or if they're going... I think if they don't bring him in, it's going to be a huge mistake and wasted opportunity. We could even end up with a kind of Mandalorian war again, where they're split up into these different factions and they're backing different leaders. Like, are you with Din? Are you with Boba Fett? Are you with Bo-Katan? But honestly, the relationship between Din and Boba Fett is so tight at this point that I could see either Din throwing his support behind Boba Fett or Boba Fett throwing his support behind Din. It's very interesting, very interesting. I have a lot of thoughts about this episode. Number one, it's strange because Din and Bo-Katan were on screen so little, but I definitely believe this is the strongest episode of the season so far in terms of content, the density of this episode, the layers of this episode. I don't like being away from our protagonist here. That was one complaint I had about the Book of Boba Fett, is that for like 2 episodes we had no Boba Fett and we totally detoured to Din and Luke Skywalker and Grogu. I loved the 2 episodes. I thought they were fantastic. The problem was I felt like they belonged in season 3 of The Mandalorian and not in the Book of Boba Fett. I didn't like being away from our main character for so long. This was not as dramatic in that we saw Din at the beginning of the episode and we wrapped up with Din at the end. But this whole segment in between was very detached, very much a detour off to something that seems completely unrelated. Unless they tie it back in later with, we did have the TIE fighters coming after Din and Bo-Katan at the beginning and bombing her castle. So if we keep building up these old Imperial / First Order kind of threads, and that ends up being a threat that Din and the Mandalorians are facing and fighting in the future, it could end up being very relevant and tying together very well. But right now it seems very detached and very much a detour off on a character that has met Din and was involved with Moff Gideon and the Mandalorian and all that. But now he's not. I'm wondering why they're setting up this cloning thing, this cloning thread. I know how it connects down the road to The Rise of Skywalker. I try to forget that movie every day, but I'm keeping it in my mind because I know that that's something they are now trying to... It's hard to improve a story that was that weak and full of plot holes and did not tie well to everything before it, in my opinion. It's hard to make something like that fit, but if anyone can make it slightly better and interweave it with the rest of the canon a little bit better, it's Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. I think that's what they're trying to do. We are still not in the era of the sequel trilogy here. I believe in terms of like where we are in the timeline, like Ben Solo is still a kid at this point, like young kid. So we're still early days here. And we know the cloning ends up connecting to Palpatine, right? That's how Palpatine ends up coming back. Some kind of Sith science magic, somehow Palpatine has returned, right? But I think they're trying to lay in some more backstory and things for that to make it make more sense, to make it stronger. I don't know how it's going to end up interweaving with The Mandalorian, because I'm still not sure what the end goal of The Mandalorian as a series is. And obviously in season 1 they were Moff Gideon was trying to capture Grogu. I think it was part of all that cloning research and trying to probably extend lifespans because the Yoda species lives for so long. It was very... I was suspicious of Kane from the beginning. I just, when I saw her watching Dr. Pershing's talk at the beginning, she just had that stone cold Imperial look on her face, and it was like, she kept smiling and kidding around with him and smirking and all that. I was just like, I'm not buying it. I don't know. I feel like there's going to be a catch to this, that I knew there had to be an antagonist in here somewhere, and I suspected it was going to be more than just like the Coruscant guards and all of that. But to see, I mentioned Operation Paperclip at the beginning, and for those who don't know, that was the United States brought Nazi scientists into our country and adopted their research and all of that after World War II. It was declassified later. And it felt very much like that in this episode, with the New Republic bringing in Imperials to Coruscant and on the surface doing away with all of that, but behind the scenes they are adopting the Empire's technology, using Imperial techniques, and I mean, they're saying this is not a mind flayer, and Pershing is like, this is a mind flayer. Like, they're saying, we're not doing that, we're not like them, and it's like, yeah, they are. The Empire has not been completely destroyed. It was destroyed in name, and, you know, Palpatine and Vader are gone and all that, but they are adopting this technology. They are bringing scientists like Dr. Pershing in, although they're not going to be using him at this point because he's been totally mind wiped, unless it's just like wiping memories that can make him rebellious and all of that, but they still have his knowledge to use his research and all of that. Yeah, it's very dark. It's very dark, very disturbing, and honestly, I mean, like, I've been drawing this analogy here, true to life. The rebels defeat the Empire only to kind of become the Empire down the road. Unfortunately, that's something that happens quite often. And they are adopting these techniques and committing these atrocities that the Empire was guilty of. It's really interesting and showing corruption and darkness on both sides, showing how the Empire, the remnants of the Empire, have infiltrated the New Republic. Very interesting stuff. I did not expect to get that out of my Mandalorian episode today, and it all felt like it belonged in another show. But I'm gonna withhold judgment. I'm gonna withhold criticizing that until I see the entirety of this season and how everything ties together and where we're going. Because if it's just completely detached, it probably belonged in another series. But I want to see how they tie it all together. I want to see where this season is going. I want to see how they're going to do this, because obviously the Mandalorians are not in the sequel trilogy. They are not there to fight the First Order. They're not there. You know, maybe you could say they're in that giant mass of ships at the end of The Rise of Skywalker, all those ships that come to help fight Palpatine. But throughout the sequel trilogy, they're not there. They're not helping. They're never mentioned. They're not mentioned in the books. They're not mentioned in any of the extended material. So where are they? What are they doing? Who are they fighting? I want to see that explanation. My original thinking was, you know, they're probably off fighting maybe a completely different enemy. They could even bring in something like the Yuzan Vong and have them off fighting a totally different war, and that's why they're not here to face the First Order. But they're really tying in the Mandalorian stuff with the Imperial warlords and all of that, so I don't know. I don't even feel like I can do too much prediction and too much just theorizing at this point, because I've yet to see kind of how the season's going to shape up. We're only 3 episodes in, so we've got 5 to go, I'm assuming, and I'm along for the ride. This very much had my attention. We've got some nice complexities and threads going on here. I feel like the first 2 episodes were very simple, very straightforward, and this one really got more interesting. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. What do you think is going on here? How do you think this is going to tie together? What do you think's happening here? Just thoughts, ideas, questions, put them in the comments below, and I will get to some of those next week. I hope you guys enjoyed this reaction. If you want to see the full-length version, head on over to my Patreon, link in the description below, and I will see you guys next week for Chapter 20.